ensure that what you are doing is God's plan for your life. And I was already sure that God's plan for my life was law at the time, but I needed to pray just to be sure. And at the time when I prayed, I heard a very tiny voice for the first time, agriculture, and I stood up and said, never. Because again, in 2013, agriculture was not fashionable at all. And I spoke to my father, my late father at the time, and he felt I wasn't feeling well. Maybe I had fever or something. And fast forward, after that encounter, I began to lose my peace until I agreed after a few months to go into agriculture. As soon as I stepped into the first farm ever in my life, I felt a kind of peace that I've never felt in my life before. And since that 2013 up until now, it's been from one area of agriculture to the other, finding the gaps that are in the space that we could help to ensure that those gaps are filled, the knowledge gap, compliance gap, what will it take to bring agriculture back to where it used to be? And for me, that has been my driving force since 2013 till date.
Interesting, very good. So what are the typical gaps there are, and what are the challenges of agriculture today in Nigeria and possibly in Africa, and where are the gaps?
Okay, so there are a lot of gaps. First, the first gap will be the knowledge gap. There is a huge knowledge gap in the sector. The farmers, especially the actors across value chains, do not understand what needs to be done to be able to comply with basic food safety standards, comply with international standards, have uniform standards, especially in Nigeria. So for Nigeria, for instance, unfortunately, we are one of the countries that do not have regulation for primary production. Yes, the Standard Organization of Nigeria has set up standards that are voluntary. So people can go in, pay for the standard, pick it up, and use those standards to cultivate. But there is no guiding law that guides activities at the primary level. So what it means is that the farmers are able to do whatever it is that they want to do at the primary production level. And that is one of the reasons why you find out that a lot of our products are rejected in the international market due to pesticide residue, presence of pesticide residue, heavy pesticide residue, heavy metals, lack of compliance to international food safety standards and all of that. Also, there is also the absence of uniformity in terms of so there is uniformity, lack of absence of uniformity in terms of standards. There is the absence of knowledge. There is this knowledge gap. There is also gap in terms of policy, government policies as it relates to land tenure system, as it relates to security, as it relates to how actors or people around the value chain or across the value chain behave in terms of even the financial gap, the gap in terms of knowledge as it relates to insurance, the issue of technology, the issue of equipment. There is a lot of issues, and that also would account for the reason why we found out that agriculture has taken the back seat as against the 70s and even 60s after independence, when agriculture was the major income earner for the country.
Okay, so if you are president of Nigeria, or maybe the minister in charge of, what would you do to drive agriculture and to push agriculture to the front burner?
Okay, so one of the first things I will do is to insist that we create a regulation for primary production in Nigeria, because we cannot have a country of over 200 million Nigerians and we do not have regulation that regulates the basic things that happen at the primary level. So I would insist on having regulation for primary production. I would also insist that we increase our mechanization, because we have about the lowest in the whole of Africa. I would also insist on irrigation. So irrigation, for instance, in Nigeria is less than 1%. In the whole of Nigeria, for over 200 million Nigerians, we depend largely on rain-fed agriculture, and there is no magic. We would have food insecurity because everything that is done within a certain period. So that rainy season, you find a lot of people going in to cultivate and all of that, and it's not sustainable. I would also insist that lands be open. So, for instance, if I become the Minister of Agriculture today, I would work with state governments to open up lands, because one of the issues is access to land. And we have a lot of teeming youths that will want to be able to get into the agricultural space, but they don't see agriculture as fashionable. One of the things we need to also do is to make agriculture fashionable, just like we made the banking industry fashionable in the 90s. We have to also now make agriculture fashionable, bring in technology, expand the value chain for people to see that, look, the value chain for agriculture is not only in terms of primary production, processing and handling. There are other aspects of the agricultural value chain that you can play in, from logistics to technology, to designing of labeling and all of that, to trading, to marketing. A whole lot of those parts of the value chain is not being utilized today. So if we open up lands and then we allow people to be able to understand the value chains and decide what part of the value chain they want to get into. So you want to get into primary production, you have a land that is contiguous, say 200 hectares contiguous, where you can be given maybe 1 hectare, 2 hectares to cultivate. There is irrigation, so you're able to do 2 or 3 seasons depending on the crop and the the value chain that you are playing in. There is mechanization, so you don't have to get your hands dirty. There are people who have there are extension workers, not like what we have today, where we have one extension worker to 22,000 farmers. So you have extension workers that belong to government, third-party extension workers also that will be verified by the ministry to ensure that they have sufficient knowledge to be able to guide the farmers on international best practices. And then, of course, because they are contiguous, they are able to use common facilities like mechanization, the expert advice of agronomies, irrigation, and all of the land. The land that has been opened, of course, is accessible to all of them. And then that will now create another ecosystem. So the ecosystem will be in terms of processing, because when people know that, for instance, you have a cluster of 1,000 farmers who are producing rice, for instance, the most ideal thing is to set up a rice processing facility in that location where they can process rice, for instance, and then the marketers can now come up, take that rice and go to market them. And then also the mechanization people know that, oh, there is a captive market here. So we can set up our mechanization hub, and this becomes our captive market that we can provide services to. The same with those who are agronomists who want to deploy in terms of their expertise to the farmers, third-party certification people also, who can also provide third-party certification for those who are looking to be able to export. But in total, it's just being able to reorganize the sector, because right now, what we have is broken supply chain. We should have a total seamless supply chain that where one fits into the other. Because we have the land, we have the capacity, we have the human capital, and we can do it. All we need is to have political will to do what needs to be done.
So why is that political will absent? You know, you've spoken so well, and I'm sure that somewhere in the government, people must know all these things. Why is that will absent? Why is it will? Why? I mean, first of all, what you said is you'll come up with regulation and policies and things like that. Why are the policies? Why can't the government come up with those policies? And why is there lack of political will for something that's so obvious? Why do you think?
Well, I think a lot of it is because we mouth everything. So sometimes I pray that the oil will finish. I don't know what our oil reserve is, but sometimes I pray that one day we'll wake up and we do not have oil. That way, people will begin to look inwards. But because we are already used to oil money, where people sleep poor and wake up very rich the next day. They still see agriculture as being very slow. They see agriculture as something that they use to lure people. So you have somebody become the president or want to run for the office, one political office, and then the person is making countless promises of, oh, I will do this in agriculture and I will do that without any blueprint. And even when they come up with programs, they are not programs that are totally thought through. So they create a program that is not completely thought through. Therefore, the results, and they don't have any evaluation mechanism that they use to evaluate to ensure that this program that we have started, for instance, this is what the result has been. These are the challenges. So going forward, if we need to develop a new program, these are the things that we need not to do. And these are the areas that we need to improve.
Okay, you said something about broken supply chain. Can you please explain a bit better what you mean by that?
Okay, so supply chain structure actually is supposed to be where one activity fits into another activity. So for instance, from primary production, they have the primary producers are able to supply the processors. The processors are able to produce and supply the exporters or supply supermarkets that would now give to the final consumers. But what we have is that everybody is working in silos. So you have farmers who have cultivated, let's take for instance cassava. You have farmers who have cultivated cassava. You also have cassava processors who do not know, who are looking for cassava but do not know that there is a lot of cassava, say in Ondo State or in Ogun State or in the Southeast, because those farmers are not, there is no database, there is no verifiable database that has database of farmers who are producing what, how many hectares that they have, so that for people who are investing, they will be able to say, okay, you know what, if I want to invest in cassava processing, based on the data that is available, we have 30,000 farmers in Ondo State who are producing cassava in this particular location. I will go and set up there so that when they produce, my factory is near the raw material, I'm able to take the produce. Now, the person who is doing the marketing, oh, I've gotten a market, say in the US, because they have a lot of Africans living in the US who want Gary, for instance, does not know that there is a processing facility in Ondo States that have produced good quality Gary that they can move from Ondo State to the United States. The extension workers, because they do not have what it takes to be able to train the farmers on the standard that cassava requires to have met, for the producer to be able to process the cassava to enter into that market, they are not also able to provide that kind of information. The same thing with logistics. I will also give you an instance, the instance of tomatoes, for instance, or even fresh produce. As a country, we do not have cold chain facility. We do not have a traceability system. It is the traceability system that helps supply chain structuring. But today we do not have traceability system at all. So you're not able to say these tomatoes that I'm buying from this supermarket is coming from Kano, from this location in Kano, even if it is as much as just two-step traceability, where there is one step forward to say, okay, it came from Kano, from this local government in Kano, and it is now being sold. This is the logistics. This is the condition it was moved from Kano all the way to mile 12 in Lagos.
All right, we're going to take a video now that shows the Africa's potential in agriculture. And after that video, I'm going to come back and ask you a few questions that may speak to the video or get some suggestions from you.
Did you know that Africa holds a staggering 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land? Yet, despite this wealth of resources, millions of people across the continent are grappling with hunger daily. How can a land so rich in potential struggle to feed its people? The answer lies in an agricultural revolution that's just beginning. Welcome to the story of Africa's Green Revolution. This is more than just a movement. It's a transformation that could reshape agriculture across the continent, making food more abundant, sustainable, and accessible. The Green Revolution is Africa's key to unlocking its potential, improving food security, and ultimately empowering its people. However, the challenges facing African farmers are immense. Climate change has altered weather patterns across the continent. Droughts turn once fertile lands into dust, and sudden floods wash away entire harvests. On top of this, many farmers are using traditional methods that, while reliable in the past, are now inefficient and unsustainable in the face of these new environmental challenges. There's a lack of access to modern agricultural tools, quality seeds, irrigation systems, and financing. Smallholder farmers, who represent 80% of Africa's food production, are often disconnected from the resources they need. Without these vital tools, yields remain low, keeping families in cycles of poverty and communities dependent on food imports or aid. But there's hope. The Green Revolution is introducing a new wave of agricultural practices, tools, and knowledge. Farmers are beginning to embrace sustainable methods like crop rotation and agroforestry, which protect the land while enhancing productivity. Conservation agriculture techniques help maintain soil fertility, ensuring long-term sustainability for farming communities. Technology is playing a huge role too. Drought-resistant seeds are being distributed, helping farmers grow crops even in the harshest conditions. Mobile technology is connecting farmers to vital information, real-time weather updates, market prices, and even advice from agricultural experts, empowering them to make informed decisions that maximize their harvests. Governments and NGOs are investing in infrastructure, from irrigation systems to farmer education programs, bringing new life to the land. One shining example is Malawi. Not long ago, this small nation struggled to feed its people, dependent on food aid to survive. But thanks to the introduction of improved seed varieties and fertilizers, farmers saw their yields skyrocket. In just a few years, Malawi went from being a food aid recipient to a food exporter. This agricultural transformation didn't just improve food security, it reshaped Malawi's economy. Farmers who had previously struggled to produce enough for their families were now generating income from surplus yields. The ripple effects were felt throughout the country. Local markets thrived, children were able to attend school with fewer interruptions from hunger, and entire communities grew more resilient. Malawi's story is a testament to the power of targeted agricultural interventions and how, with the right support, even the most vulnerable farming communities can flourish. This transformation is proof of what Africa's Green Revolution can achieve, not just for one country, but for the entire continent. It's a revolution that's already changing lives, helping families eat healthier, and empowering communities to thrive. Beyond food security, the Green Revolution has the potential to be an economic game changer for Africa. Agriculture remains the largest employer on the continent, and as productivity increases, so do opportunities. Farmers with higher yields have more to sell, improving their incomes. This new wealth flows into local markets, boosting other sectors like transportation, logistics, and manufacturing. With a stronger agricultural base, Africa can reduce its reliance on food imports, keeping wealth within the continent. Africa has the potential to become a major player in the global food market, exporting high-quality crops to regions all over the world. The economic ripple effect would create jobs, drive industrialization, and lead to improved infrastructure like better roads, storage facilities, and irrigation systems, all fueled by the agricultural boom. Africa's Green Revolution is not just an agricultural shift, it's a geopolitical one. As the continent boosts its food production, it gains more influence in international trade negotiations. Rather than relying on food aid, African nations can become food exporters, which strengthens their bargaining power in global forums. Politically, this revolution is stabilizing rural areas, reducing poverty, and improving governance. With fewer people facing hunger, governments can focus on long-term development instead of crisis management. A more stable, food-secure population leads to more stable nations, allowing governments to implement more forward-thinking policies. And as rural communities prosper, internal migration decreases, reducing pressure on urban areas. Additionally, with a stronger agricultural base, African countries can pivot from being recipients of aid to becoming vital partners in global food security. This shift not only enhances Africa's global standing, but also strengthens its alliances with other regions. Nations that were once dependent on foreign imports now have the leverage to negotiate trade deals that benefit their economies. A self-sufficient Africa can position itself as a leader in South-South cooperation, collaborating with other developing regions in technology transfer, infrastructure development, and trade, reshaping global dynamics. Now, let's dive into the intricate science behind the Green Revolution's innovations. For starters, advancements in seed technology are revolutionizing African agriculture. Science like CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing to develop crop varieties enabling crops to better withstand drought, pests, and even temperature fluctuations. For example, in maize, researchers have isolated genes that control the plant's stomata, the pores through which water escapes. By editing these genes to close stomata during peak heat, they're able to conserve water and keep the plants thriving during dry spells. This bioengineering is already resulting in a 30% increase in yield for maize in drought-prone regions. It doesn't stop there. Farmers are also benefiting from precision agriculture, which uses satellite imagery, drone technology, and IoT sensors to gather data on crop health and pest activity. Interventions, such as targeted irrigation or the application of fertilizers only where they're needed most, drastically reducing waste and maximizing efficiency. The integration of big data into farming is unlocking new possibilities, ensuring that every inch of land is used optimally. For instance, in Kenya, smart farming initiatives are providing farmers with real-time data on the exact amount of fertilizer or water their crops need.
Annabel.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, can you speak to this video?
Reducing...
What are the things that you have picked up here? And how does it relate to your thinking on agriculture in Africa?
Okay, so based on the video or the documentary that we just watched, one of the things that I picked was the ability of Africa to... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so the ability of Africa to feed the world and the potential that Africa has as a continent to be able to cultivate crops based on the landmass that we have and our weather and all of the advantages that we have as a continent to be able to feed the world. And of course, they went further to show how this or everything that they have said in terms of precision farming, in terms of high yielding variety seeds, in terms of good inputs, in terms of mechanization, how all of that has helped a country like Malawi become increase their yield and increase their productivity. And for me, I have always believed that Africa has all it takes to feed the world. But unfortunately, the West has used a lot of aid to suppress our ability to do what needs to be done. So we cannot have, for instance, 60% of arable land in the world, and we are still looking up to people to give us aid. So, and that has also made Africa to be at a place of disadvantage when it comes to negotiating trade. Because if someone gives you things all the time, you don't have a say when it comes to being able to determine what you believe will be good for you. So I will give you an instance of the GMO, for instance. Because America has been giving us aids, we've been receiving a lot of aids from the West. When they brought the issue of GMO, I know that the issue of GMO is a contestable issue, but we couldn't even as a country say, oh no, we will not take it, because there was also a political undertone. We don't want to offend some people. We let us launch GMO and all of that, even though the countries who have brought in the GMO are not using it in their country, and you have to completely label it if you want to use in their country, as against what we have right now, where we don't even have a traceability system. So even if you're of the school of thought that you don't want to eat GMO, you will end up eating GMO in maize, because nobody is going to label it as GMO. And because there is no traceability system, you will not know when you are eating hybrid GMO that is just hybrid GMO, or whether you are eating GMO, you are just eating hybrid maize. But I believe that as a continent, if we begin to look inwards, and rather than looking for aid, we begin to look for transfer of knowledge and technology to improve what God has given us, which is the arable land that is available for us, to bring in mechanization, to bring in the right kind of input, to bring in technology, to advise, to lure young people to bring in their knowledge in tech into agriculture, so that we can have some sort of precision agriculture, to bring in all of this, to also open up lands, because again, the government has to open up lands for people to be able to cultivate land, right? See the amazing work that is being done by the Burkina Faso president. All this goes to show that once you have political will, everything is possible, especially in agriculture. If you have political will and people are walking the talk, as against just talking the talk without walking the talk, these things are possible. If Nigeria has 70 million hectares of arable land, and we are not even using up to 30% of it, the question is, imagine if we are able to use 70%, if we are able to use the 70 million arable land that we have, we would have sufficient food to eat in Nigeria and enough food to export outside Nigeria to the regions of Africa and even across the world.
Okay, so thank you so much. I want to now go a little bit into specifics, and then I would open up the floor for people to ask questions, because Bola Oshiboju has raised up their hand. Boniface Chizia, my good friend, raised up the hand. Charles Obi, and so on and so forth. First of all, what section of agric do you play in? Question number one. Number two, if government does not seem to have the political will to make this thing happen, what can you and I do, ordinary, simple citizens, to take on this agribusiness head on? That's question number two that I desire to ask of you. So number one is, what do you have a farm yourself? What sector of the agri thing do you really play? Is it more on the policy and consulting level and all that, and so on and so forth? That's number one. Now, government, no political will. We've cried, we've begged, we've asked the simple things they should do, they're not doing. Okay, so they didn't give Nollywood political will. They didn't give Wizkid. And I see you like Wizkid.
No.
They didn't give
no. So of course, the entertainment industry, nobody gave them political will, but they found their way, right?
This is what I'm saying. So can we find our way in agric too, or what do we do? And then if you were going to advise on agriculture, and please listen to me carefully, I have my own point of view. What would you say Nigeria, first of all, Nigeria should focus on in terms of agricultural produce that will give us quick wins and give us leapfrog us, and then come back that way? I am on the board of a company that does cashew nuts, and they're doing cashew nuts out of Nigeria, and they're doing reasonably well. Why? Because Nigerian natural cashew is one of the best in the world, and so on and so forth. They said that when they came to Nigeria about 10 years ago, I wasn't on their board then, Nigeria was doing about 1.2 million tons of cashew every year. Ivory Coast was doing about 1.250 tons of cashew every year. In the past 10 years, Nigeria has moved its cashew to about 1.250 tons of cashew, or 1.250 million tons of cashew, I'm not sure, every year. But Ivory Coast now is doing between 8 and 10 million tons of this same cashew in about 10 years, okay? They've ramped up. We are still more or less on the same level. So what would you suggest would be the low entry, quick wins, low entry levels that will really fast track agricultural development in Nigeria? And what should we as simple, ordinary citizens do to try and rescue ourselves and solve our problems? Self-help.
Okay, thank you very much. So first and foremost, I play in the compliance space. We as NICERT are facilitating export of Nigerian products into the international market through compliance to international standards and certification as proof of compliance. So we play in the compliance space, but we also still provide consultancy. We design agricultural projects end to end and then help with the management and implementation. That is part of what we do, all in compliance with international best practices. We also own a farm where we are working. We own a farm in Abuja, in Giri, specifically, where we are cultivating organic soya beans. And one of the things that we are doing is using that as a demonstration farm, working in partnership with the University of Abuja, because one of my aim is to ensure that those who are in the agricultural, in the Department of Agriculture, in the universities, most of them from the interviews that we have done found themselves accidentally. So I call them accidental students of agriculture. But we want them to now begin to see that agriculture can be very profitable. So we are working with them. We have a farm that is fully mechanized, from land preparation to planting to pesticide application to harvesting and all of that, for them to begin to gain interest in organic cultivation, and also be able to see how these organic products are exported. So we'll handhold them through the entire process. So we are in compliance, we are in consultancy, and yes, we own a farm where we are presently cultivating organic soya. And then for the second question that you have asked on what we can do if there is no political will, one of the things I have said to most people who have come is that the agricultural space or the agricultural sector, unfortunately, have been spoon-fed for too long. So you find out that for a sector that has the average age at 65, the average age of the people who are in this sector is 65 years old. Young people haven't seen it as profitable. They haven't seen it as fashionable. And we are trying to ensure that we are working with even those in the secondary schools to see agriculture as a business and to see agriculture as a career that they can build and grow into. That's number one. And then for people who are trying to invest, one of the things that we have also advised is that let us not wait for government anymore. Just like any other business, we have to take the bull by the horn. We have to understand what the market requires, understand the value chains that are more profitable, and then invest our money. Put our money where our mouth is. Invest our money in doing land clearing. Invest our money in bringing in technology. Invest our money in bringing in irrigation, for instance, so we can come together. I know that crowdfunding, unfortunately, hasn't done well in Nigeria because most people crowdfund, and the people who led the crowdfunding end up misusing the funds. But I'm sure that there will be ways where 2, 3, 4 people can crowdfund money and then set up standard farms. So it depends on what part of the value chain you want to play in, whether you want to play in the upstream, midstream, or the downstream sector of this agricultural economy. But we need, as a people, to begin to invest in it. We would leave government would come later. They would meet us halfway, or meet us or never meet us at the end of the day. But it is something that we must do. We cannot continue to wait for government. So in terms of regulation, for instance, we can decide to create our own ecosystem. That is what I tell people, and that is what the Indians are doing, actually. So what the Indians do is that they come into Nigeria with all of their personnel, a compliance person, a trainer, a consultant, and everybody. Someone who understands market intelligence, who understands where the market is, the person who understands the country of production. They come together as a consortium into a country. So they come to, I will use ginger, for instance, because you find a lot of them in the ginger value chain. They come to a state government like Kaduna State and say, look, we want to train your farmers and we want to offtake. So the government, but these are the category of farmers that we require. We want farmers who have been practicing traditional farming, so they've not been using any pesticide or herbicide on their farm. And then the government aggregates these farmers for them. They train the farmers on the organic protocol. And then at the end of the day, they certify those farms as organic, but unfortunately in their own name. And then what they now do is that they buy it at the local market price on the day of harvest. So they really haven't really invested anything. What they bought at the local market price on the day of harvest, they will get up to 50% more in the international market, because what they will be selling will not be conventional ginger, for instance. They will be selling organic ginger. So for people who want to invest, you were asking for the low-hanging fruit. You would look at the market, you would look at the market segment and find out what segment of the market do you want to play in. Do you want to play in the local market, for instance? If you want to play in the local market, for instance, you will begin to look at what are the staple food that Nigerians eat. It means that you will be looking at being able to invest in rice cultivation, or in the rice value chain generally, or in the cowpea value chain, in the maize value chain. Unfortunately, for the rice value chain, the federal government has given a few people licenses to bring in rice. Therefore, the prices of rice is going to crash, and that, again, for me, is a wrong move, because it's almost like you are eating your tomorrow today. So while you are trying to bring down the cost of rice in Nigeria, you are killing the rice sector in Nigeria, and everybody who have invested in that value chain will bear the brunt, because you will not be able to compete. So while Nigerian farmers are getting between 3 to 4 tons per metric, 4 metric tons per hectare for rice, in Nigeria, you will be competing with the likes of Thailand, where they are getting up to 14 metric tons, where they have road, where they have good infrastructure, where they have government subsidies, where the inputs are even produced in their country, so the prices are better. So the cost of production is lower. They bring it into this place, and it destroys the local markets. I mean, the local rice economy of Nigeria. So if you want to do rice, you have to again look at it again and be sure that the government licenses that we are giving, the permits that we're giving to import rice, will not destroy your investment. And then you look at the for people who want to go into export, you can look at cocoa, for instance. Cocoa was the major income earner for Nigeria as far as non-oil is concerned last year. We made about $1.7 billion dollars last year from cocoa. And the cocoa industry is a $17.4 billion industry that would is estimated to grow at $31 billion by 2030. So for everyone who wants to really get into the sector and is going to do export. Cocoa is one product that everybody should be looking at. The price of cocoa as at the last season that just ended, at one point rose to 15 million naira, which no other commodity has gotten to. And that was because, again, there was a high demand for Nigerian cocoa because the cocoa from Ghana actually had issues because of climate change. So there was a lot of demand for cocoa from Nigeria. Also, cashew is a very good cash crop that one can also invest in. So be it selling cashew. For me, one of the things I've also advocated for is to have more processing facilities in Nigeria so that we are not selling raw cashew nuts out of Nigeria. We should be targeting to invest in processing. So if you are going into cashew and you have the funds, or you are creating a consortium, it is important for you to create a consortium and set up a processing facility for cashew where you are able to export, whether you are exporting cashew, conventional cashew kernel out of Nigeria, or you are exporting organic cashew kernel out of Nigeria. Just recently, I think 2 years ago, an Indian company was the first to export organic cashew kernel out of Nigeria into Belgium because they got the cashew plantation certified for organic according to the USDA and the EU organic regulation. And of course, if you are doing processing, you will be able to now use the husks. In fact, one of the things that they are using the shell now, they are trying to create fertilizer. They also crush and get the oil that they sell to the paint industry and all of that. They also use it for energy generation. So they generate energy from the shell of cashew. So for cashew is almost like oil palm. It's almost a zero waste. So for you to export cashew nuts out of the country, you are exporting the value out of the country only to get peanuts. So there is cashew, there is cocoa, there is sesame seed, there is ginger. There is a lot of high demand for Nigerian ginger because Nigerian ginger is the most potent ginger in the world. The potency of Nigerian ginger is the highest in the world. You can't find it in any other place. But unfortunately, when there was ginger blight in Kaduna 2 years ago, the government did not do what needed to be done to secure our ginger sector. And that is why some people go to the market today and one ginger is almost going for 500 to 600, sometimes 1,000 naira. And we are not even able to compete in the international market anymore. But again, ginger is good, turmeric is good, spices generally, bird's eye chili, habanero. But again, it also depends on the part of the country where you are. If you want to go into primary production, you have to look at the climatic condition of the area where you are. You also have to look at the market that you want to, the segment of the market you want to play in. And you also now need to also look at the viability or otherwise of that value chain. I don't know if there is any other question I haven't answered.
I think you've done very well, very, very well. Let me yield the floor to Pastor Sonny and Jumoke, who will take us through the Q&A. I hope I've not exhausted you. You've spoken
No.
so...
No, you haven't.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor. I am just in awe of the knowledge that you bring into this. I want to say well done, Annabel.
Thank you very much.
You've spoken very passionately, and just listening to you, it's like we should make you the Minister of Agriculture straight away, so that you can bring all these changes. And although we had the Minister of Agriculture once that everybody praised, and because of the fact that he was Minister of Agriculture, he was able to get the ADB job. So one of the questions I will ask you before I go is, what happens? Somebody does so well. I don't know if he did so well. I mean, the jury is out there. And when he leaves, it's like everything they put in place is turned around. Why does that happen?
So is the issue of continuity.
I'm talking about
right?
additional. You know additional, right?
Yes, I know additional. Yes,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
the issue of continuity. So Nigeria has serious issues with being able to continue from where their predecessors stopped. So they look at it that, oh, me, I want to now create my own program so that I can own it, so that people don't say, no, this is what my predecessor started, which does not even make any sense. So if you come and you see what your predecessor has done, you can evaluate it and expand on it or improve on it, as against abandoning it and abandoning all the investment that has been made by that predecessor on that particular program and thinking that you can set up something new. And before you know it, you don't finish that one and you have not created the impact. Unfortunately, most politicians are not looking for impact. They just like to talk a lot, so that people can applaud them. Nobody is looking for impact, because if you are looking for impact, then you would be looking for quick wins. And if your predecessor has started something, leveraging on what your predecessor has done will give you the quick win and the impact that you require for the short time that you will be in office.
Thank you for that. We will take questions or contributions from our audience. And the way we normally do it is that we may take 3 people at a time. So I hope you can note the questions down. So
Okay,
that
I'll try. I'll try my best.
we'll try and keep it short and straight to the point so that more people can come up with. So we have Bola Oshiboju, Boniface Chizea, and Dr. Stephen Ogida. Charles Obi. So we'll take Bola Oshiboju first, Adetula, and then we'll take Boniface Chizea, and then we'll take Charles. And then you'll take those 3 first, and then we'll come to the next 3. So allow Bola to unmute. Go ahead, ma.
Thank you very much. I enjoy the Annabel. You did very well.
Thank you, ma'am.
I read agriculture, so you can now see why I'm interested. But my question is, what's happening?
Go ahead, ma.
Oh, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is, how do we, I have two problems that affect the farm. Number one, the entitlement mentality of farm workers that you employ, and then the herders. You can see how these people, especially the farm hands, how they try to sort of ruin the business for the owner. And it's not only in agriculture, it's everywhere. So how do we handle that situation? I know some people who came from America, a man invested over 10 million. Within 6 months, everything went down the drain and he ran back. Then how do we resolve the problem of the herders? So those are my 2 areas that I am concerned with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma.
Thank you.
I'm sure Annabel has noted that. Oga Boniface, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah. You know, most of us don't know that agric is the mainstay of Nigerian economy. I mean, I should not say so, but I want to say that as an economist. In terms of its contribution to GDP, and people are engaged in agriculture, so it's a vast area. And when you look at Nigeria, and you look at the vast territory we have, particularly up north, and they're not being utilized, they're not being cultivated. You can see that really that's why we're in this mess. Mm-hmm. And so but let me ask 1 or 2 questions. So what has alluded to Femi Adesina? When he was here, I talked about wallet and so on. You know, those things were trending all over the place. And as soon as he left, those things were, nobody mentioned them again. Of course, you seem to have talked about that previously. There's also this talk of modified seedlings, GMO seeds, and so on and so forth. Do we have them in Nigeria? You know, I would want to ask. And of course, they talked about GMO produces have not been the best. Would that be an issue? I think the other point I want to touch is you talked about value chains. What are we doing about value chain? We want people to go to agriculture. We're not making it attractive for people to go to agriculture. You know, so You talked about irrigation. We're not even doing irrigation. Little wonder that we're not producing the way we should produce. And if you're going to do commercial agriculture, you look at the level of interest rates in this economy, 30% and above. No real sector investment will be able to sustain lots of challenges. But what I'm saying is that, what I say to us is that really, agri is a gold mine, which we talk about oil. Oil is just because of foreign exchange, because we are overly exposed to the external sector, to importation. So cry about oil, we cry about the rate of exchange and so on and so forth. When you talk of really productivity, and also I've not mentioned the issue of the activities by all these people who are causing problems in the country. So people can go to farms. So most people are living from their farms. People are in IDP camps, and they even go there and slaughter them. So I think there are some challenges. I hope that we need to begin to get our acts together as a nation. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boniface.
Thank you. We'll take the last in this series, Charles Obi.
Well, thank you. Madam, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. A lot of good data. I think some of the questions I had, some of them have been asked. One of them relating to your interaction with Dr. Adeshina, how he has influenced what you are doing in Nigeria. But I still have a couple of questions. What is NICERT? That's number one. Is it the Nigerian Computer Emergency Response Team? Is that what it is? Is there some kind of relationship between your organization and how it's using technology to influence agriculture? We all know that agriculture probably has one of the lowest barriers to entry in terms of practicing agriculture. I mean, when we were growing up, we were taught that we were an agrarian society. However, it doesn't seem like we are doing a whole lot to export. When we should be able to export a whole lot of agricultural products in Nigeria. You talked about a few that are very important. For example, turmeric and some of cocoa, where you are getting a lot of yields and a lot of revenue. How about other crops? I mean, people are hungry and dying in our country due to starvation. Is there any way we can enable some of the small mom and pop shops who want to focus on agriculture so that it can become part of that value chain that you described so very well? I think that it's clear to all of us, to you in particular, that oil is not going away soon. So we should take it that oil and agriculture can coexist. And so what can we do to make sure that agriculture is a partner with the oil industry and actually be bringing in a lot of money for the country? Thank you. Again, thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay, Annabel.
Thank you very much.
You can go ahead and maybe respond to those three.
Okay, so let me start with the entitlement mentality. Just like Madam Bola had said, the entitlement mentality is all over the place. Be it in the agricultural sector or in the food, in the clothing sector, whichever sector you find yourself, you will find out that I always say that Nigerians are not employable. We do not have employable people. There are a lot of Nigerians that are not employable because of the get rich quick syndrome and because of the complacent manner with which people treat other people's things. So you find out that people, you, for instance, especially in the agricultural, let's take the agricultural sector, for instance, you employ people to work in your farm. Let's take the viral video that went viral some, I think last year, where the poultry owner found out that a lady who was working for her had stolen 20 crates of egg and put it on her body. So are you now saying that if every time you want to set up a poultry, you should now go and put CCTV to ensure that people are not stealing? There has to be a mind shift. It has to be a paradigm shift in the mind of the people. that look, and the fear of God, because people don't have the fear of God, they just do things anyhow. So you find it among the ruling class, you find it amongst the people who are being ruled, even amongst even the people at the lowest cadre. People like the cleaners, everybody is doing eye service. People who do not care about the business that feeds them. So they treat it anyhow. All they are concerned about is how to make money. It's unfortunate. That is the kind of people that we are, or that is where we have found ourselves. But can we change that mentality? Yes, but it has to be a collective effort of everybody, both the people at the ruling class, the people who are being ruled. Everybody has to decide that, look, this is what needs to be done. In fact, people now pray before they even employ people so that God can send you the right people. So out of the 1 million nonsense that is available, God should give you the 1% that makes sense, or that is even manageable, that you will be able to manage. However, in doing all of that, you also have to put some measures in place. You have to create measures that you can use to curtail the excesses of the people who are in your employment. In terms of checking, in terms of security, you have to find a way to ensure that they don't steal what belongs to you, or they don't steal you dry. Because yes, they are going to steal, but when they want to now steal you dry, that is when you begin to have a problem. And then secondly, how do you gauge their performance and all of that? Then thirdly, you also have to continue to train and retrain. And then for the headers, one of the things that I have said is, it looks like this header farmer crisis is not going to go away anytime soon. However, what the government can do is to create clusters. So if, for instance, we have clusters in each of the 74 local governments across the country, you can now begin to deploy the military, or deploy security agencies that can secure those locations, as against having 100 farmers with 100 plots scattered all over the local government. If you have 500 hectare or land that has been opened, and people who are interested can come and be allocated that land, you can now be able to solve the issue of security, because you can deploy security in that place without stretching that security apparatus too thin. You can also now deploy other common facilities that can be used in that location. And before you know what is happening, you have created an entire ecosystem around that particular cluster. Then the issue of, someone asked a question on the GMO. Yes, there is GMO seed in Nigeria. Nigeria just recently launched the GMO maize. So there is GMO maize in Nigeria, which is the reason why when I was speaking about the issue of GMO, I said, because we do not have traceability system as a country, even when you do not want to eat GMO, the maize that you are buying from the maize farmer the person who is roasting maize by the roadside, because when you bring the two maize, they look the same. You will not know which one is GMO and which one is not GMO. And if you ask the woman, because the woman does not even know the difference between the local variety and the GMO variety, the person is not even able to tell you. And then going to even the cornflakes and the Kellogg's and all of the cornflakes that we use, and all of the material, the products that contain maize, because there has been a lot of pushback on GMO, people will not properly label this product as GMO. So if they are using GMO maize, for instance, they will not label it as GMO. So here you are thinking that you are not consuming GMO, but because there is no traceability, you will end up consuming GMO unknowingly, without actually knowing that you are consuming GMO. There is GMO maize, there is also GMO soya beans in Nigeria today. There is also GMO cowpea. Yeah, they also launched GMO cowpea. So cowpea, soya beans, maize, they've launched the GMO of those value chains in Nigeria. And then for the issue of the supply, the value chain, and the interest rates. So for supply chain, Unfortunately, again, we do not have, if you don't have a workable, seamless traceability system, you can't have a workable, seamless supply chain structure. What you will continue to have are broken chains that unfortunately do not work because everybody is working in silos, whilst the best practice would have been having one segment of the one segment feeding into the other. And then for the interest rate, I do not understand. I'm hoping that now that they have just recently recapitalized the Bank of Agriculture, we can have a single-digit loan for agriculture. There is no way and there is no place in the world where you can do agriculture with a double-digit interest rate. It cannot, it's not possible. It can't work. Because by the time you finish, all you would have done is work for the bank, or even you have lost money because you would have lost both the principal sum and the interest, because you won't be able to make money using double digit. Today, they are lending, they are giving agricultural lending at 35%. It doesn't make any sense. You will not be able to break even. You can't break it. In fact, you will not be able to repay those loans. And that is why if you look at the loan recovery for or repayment of loans in the agricultural sector is the lowest because the interest rate is too high. And by the time you finish, you realize that you are not able to repay the loan that you have gotten. Hopefully, the Bank of Agriculture will come out with a single-digit loan that agricultural actors or people in the agricultural sector can access and use for both primary production, processing, and handling. I know that a lot of commercial banks shy away from giving agricultural lending to people at the primary level. They are willing to lend to aggregators, and they're also willing to lend to people who are doing processing. But the question I've always asked them is, if you don't lend to primary producers, where are they going to get the raw material that they are going to aggregate? And where are they going to get the raw material that they're going to process? And even with the Anchor Borrowers Program, I know that people will say, oh, but there was Anchor Borrowers Program, it didn't make a difference. Though the truth is that corruption came and dwelled inside the Anchor Borrowers Program. And that also affected everything, because if people collected money, again, because we do not have data, the only time you find Nigerians, we find the government creating data. If they had continued, like you mentioned, what Additional did with the farmer wallet, we would have had a data of farmers. So you don't begin to create data when there is an intervention coming, where political farmers will now come in. You already have a data of farmers with all of their information, the size of hectares that they have, the location where they have those hectares and all of that. And you can create a target specific intervention for them. And then for NICERT is not Nigerian Emergency, whatever. NICERT is not an acronym, but it was basically set up, like I mentioned initially, to facilitate export of Nigerian products into the international market through compliance to international standards and certification as proof of compliance. We are the only indigenous certification body in Nigeria as we speak today for food safety certification, but we are still working in partnership with a French company called EcoSat that has accreditation for multiple standards, including organic according to the USDA, the EU organic regulation, the Japanese agricultural standard, fair trade, global gap, the EUDR compliance, Rainforest Alliance for people who are in the cocoa industry and all of that. All of these that we are doing, both HACCP, Hazard Analytic Critical Control Point, ISO 22000, ISO 9001, gamut of various international standards, is to ensure that when Nigerians produce, that they are able to gain the right kind of certification to lead them into lucrative markets. And for us, lucrative market will be the US market, the EU market, the Middle East market, and some part of the Asian market, like the Japanese market, the Taiwanese market. These are markets that will pay you premium for products that Nigeria has comparative advantage. I don't know, is there any question I haven't responded to?
You have done great justice to it. Don't worry, there are more people asking more questions. Well done, Annabel. We'll take Dr. Steve, Auntie Doris, and then Odebel Farm. I think there's a farm here. And then after that, we'll take the last three from our doyens, Auntie MEC and Auntie Prof. So Dr. Steve, go ahead with your question, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, our speaker. It was a very great presentation, and listening to you resonates quite a number of things we work on. I like the way you are very intentional about the question of quality and certification, which is lacking in the way we do our business. Then we need to strengthen and unbundle the value chain. Then we need to encourage the youth to do more. And lastly, we need to get the subnational government, the local government, to be able to take the heavy lifting away and do sufficient land preparation. There are some pockets of processes which we have seen, like what the development partners are doing, that in the IFAD Value Chain Development Program, the Life ND program. So what we can do as individual citizens, like Pastor Ito has said, is that we need to demand from the political leadership to provide something for the people by preparing the land and getting the youth to be able to go into agriculture. Not just a question of giving them keke napep or buying motorcycle for them, or giving them what they will know, what they will go and sell across the road. So that if we do this, then we aggregate the farmers together. The security for the farmland can never be done by the farmers. And by the time we have 200 farmers, 50 farmers coming together in land that is contiguous, protecting them will be very easy. And if we are able to do those things, we will now be able to move agriculture forward. It's a wonderful presentation, and I like the way the work you are doing, especially in certification, which we are lacking in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. Okay, Odebel Farm. There was somebody before Odebel Farm. I can't remember. Your hand went off.
Doris had her hand up.
Okay, Doris, yeah. Have you unmuted her?
I tried to. I don't know if she still wants to ask a question.
Okay,
yes, she's unmuted. Yes,
okay,
go ahead, Doris.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just. You've done very well, my sister. I want to make a contribution to the talk because I was part of the lead consultants for the National Food Security Program. One thing under the late Abbasaidi Umar, he did a lot of work at that time. But one thing financing agriculture, the greatest problem we have had in this country is because agriculture is so far from market. That is why the Bank of India's agriculture failed. When people take money for agriculture, they are not ready to wait for 2 years to get, any interest on what they have taken. They find it easier to go into trading with petroleum and things like that. And during our work, we went through a lot of the policies in the past. Nigeria has fantastic policies, but the greatest problem is implementation strategies that are workable. Because when we're looking at setting crops, and then also bearing in mind that most aids we get are not to help us. Most of the aids we get are just to divert our attention. Because during that time, we wanted, part of the plan was to set up national agricultural farms, agricultural parks, where you aggregate processors and all that. And you said,
like an agro park.
Agro-industrial park.
Industrial park, yeah.
6 actually were planned. And the money you said was offering Nigeria at that time would have set up 3 of the parks. When we had a meeting with you, said no, the money is for is just for human development. And we said so much money, and you're bringing your consultants from the US that we take 90% of the money. That was when the president at that time, President Yaradua, that was why he set up the National Food Security Program and said Nigeria should not take any more aid for agriculture if it doesn't align with our agricultural policy. That caused a lot of issues, internationally and all that. And then basically you have the farmers themselves, because right now, well, I know someone was talking about investments. The best thing to do in farming is to do contract farming. You prepare the land, give to farmers 500,
So some sort
depending
of in-grower model, like an
in-grower
in-grower model,
model,
right?
that's so that you are not the one directly supervising the farms
Direct
itself,
supervising them, yeah.
but you are going to take the offtake from them and give certain incentives to them to get it away. But one thing, 2 years ago, I was amazed because I was in touch with somebody who did a lot of export of beans and gari from Nigeria. The problem we're having, because the World Trade Organization is not taking those goods to Nigeria, if you see how they package those goods, then they take it to Ghana. Then they label it made from Ghana produce and ship it abroad.
So Doris, the reason for the cowpea is because cowpea from Nigeria was banned in 2016 for pesticide residue. And that
but I'm still telling you that the cowpea is still going on.
That's what I'm saying, because it hasn't been lifted. It hasn't been lifted. That's what I'm saying. People who want to export.
Miss Doris,
Yes.
if you don't mind, sorry to interrupt you. I know we can really get passionate about this because we have a lot of hands up.
No problem.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Annabel, do you want to address the questions that you've received, you've gotten so far?
Okay, so there are two comments, but let me just say quickly that yes, there are a lot of intraport trade going on from Nigeria. The cowpea, people want to continue to do business, right? And Nigerian cowpea has been banned from Europe since 2016 because of pesticide residue. The pesticide residue from of beans from Nigeria to Europe in 2016 was so high that they decided to ban. So while the EU pesticide residue was allowable pesticide residue was 0.001 milligram per kg, Nigeria had up to 0.4. I mean 4.0. So it was milligram per kg. So it was too much, and they banned it. Again, what every other person would have expected was that Nigeria would go ahead and do what needs to be done to unban it, because there are people who are in that value chain that make their livelihood from exporting beans. So while they are waiting for Nigeria, now it's almost 10 years since the ban, we've not been able, we've set up committee after committee after committee from Ministry of Agriculture to Ministry of Trade and Investment, and nothing has moved. One of the things that they do is to begin to look for ways to be able to still continue their export business while they are waiting for government to do the right thing. And that's why you see a lot of them going to Ghana to export it as Ghanaian beans. But guess what? The Ghanaian government will look at the beans to ensure that beans, the pesticide residue is not too high, so that they also do not destroy the Ghanaian reputation and cause a ban of cowpea going from Ghana. So again, that is what has been happening. And then for the local government, like I think it was Dr. Steve that spoke about local governments being able to champion the heavy lifting, which is the primary production. That is the way to go. There is no other way to go. Now that there is an autonomy for the local government, they need to now begin to invest in agriculture holistically by opening up lands. Open up the land. So rather than giving them keke napep, giving them bicycles, some people are giving them some things that actually don't make sense. Open up lands for them, because one of the barriers for people who want to go into primary production is access to land. So if you open up land, and people who have been clamoring for that they want to sell irrigation facilities come to you, you tell them, go and put the irrigation facility, we'll pay you 50%, and then the 50% will be paid to you across maybe 5, 6, 7 to 10 years. That way they will put irrigation facilities that would work, because as you rent out the land to people, they pay you not how much they would have paid for a land that does not have irrigation. They will pay you. So in computing how much you will rent the land, you would include the cost of mechanization, you would include the cost of land clearing, a portion of the cost of land clearing, because for land clearing is a capex that you have to spread across 5 years, for instance, minimum. So you include the cost of land clearing, you include the cost of irrigation, you include the cost of having common facilities like mechanization, like agronomists who is going to help in that location. And then at the end of the day, so if you take a portion of it, if you take the entire cost, maybe 20% of it for this year and spread it across 200 hectares, you will come up with what that cost per hectare will be. And you're able to give the youths who are interested in going into agriculture the hectare of land or the lands that have been prepared. And then we can also even encourage people who are into estate development to come in and set up farm estates, because that they can partner and create a PPP between the local government and the estate developers and set up farm estates across the 774 local governments. That way, they are able to build farmhouses. So if you own a farm there, you can have farmhouses in case if you need to, like dormitories, if you need to sleep there during the season, during the time when you need to maybe cultivate, there are activities going on the farm. You are able to stay there. You don't have to be trying to rush home and all of that. And then you can bring in green energy. You can bring in mechanization. You can bring in tractorization, and all of those kind of things. And then that will also now begin to spring up other things around that place, because you would have created a community where people can now have food vendors cooking, you have processing facilities that are processing, you have people who are doing, so it becomes a community of people who are working together for a common goal. Thank you.
Thank you. We had Odell Farms. He or she had her hand up, so we're going to take that. We're going to take Auntie Yemisi, Professor Grange, Pastor Ido, Chimere, Bolade, Boluwaji. Those are the last hands that we're going to take because of time. So please go ahead, Odell, with your question. If you can keep it short too. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm highly impressed by all the. Okay. My concern in this, I've been in the farming sector for a long time, and we have a very handicapped situation. Most often time, let me take myself as an example. I love mechanized farming, but how do we get to it? Where we can buy, or where we can now be maybe a setup where we can be depositing some money at the stage when our money is able to carry it, then we'll carry. But we don't have access to any of this, because this is one of the handicap. Many people want to go into mechanized because of these helping hands and what they are doing, but we don't know how to get to it. Please, if there is a link where we can have access to buy or we deposit, we'll continue depositing until our money is able to carry it, then we'll go. So please connect us, because I'm interested.
Thank you. We're going to take Auntie Yemisi. Auntie, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Jumoke. And Annabel, it's very encouraging to see the passion and the knowledge that you have brought to analyze that sector for us today. I really want to say a big thank you. And thank you, Pastor Sonny. The doyens are more in the group. Myself and Professor Grange, we'll claim it. Thank you very much for giving us title today. I just have a quick question for you, Annabel. You've named a lot of the challenges and the things that are not going right. I just want you to also give us a picture of the things that are going right, because we get the information where I'm not a farmer, I'm not in that sector, but I feel encouraged when I hear about what Makinde is doing in Oyo State. Some of the programs that the Agri Commissioner in Lagos State is doing with the aquaculture and the cooperatives and the schools to farms and the hubs that they're creating and the meat caravans that they're developing. So can you point out some of the areas that are going well, that people like Olam Farms and some of the Indians and all of those things are doing, so that we will post this YouTube presentation of yours to those ministers and those officials in government that we want to focus on some of the challenges you raised. But can you also spend a little bit of time giving us some view of what is going right, those who are doing the right thing, which governments, particularly the subnationals, you said how important that is at the state and local government level, so that we can also encourage those that are doing well and introduce some of the solutions that you have elucidated on the program. Thank you very much. Some of us can die happy knowing that people like you are on top of everything, ready to to ensure that the various sectors you're working in is manned by the experts and the type of creativity and energy and experience and knowledge that you are bringing in. I want to say a big thank you for what you're doing, and
Thank
I'm
you.
sure Nigeria will be great again.
Again.
With
Yeah.
people like you. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Grange, and until you have another 25 years at least.
Thank you, Jumoke. Thank you. Honestly, Annabel, you've been a breath of fresh air for us and a beacon of hope for Nigeria, especially in the sector, in the agricultural sector. Not only do you have the vision, but you also, have acquired the capacity and the knowledge and, everything to realize that vision. Now, my worry is this, that you have all this, you are in this leadership position, but you are not really being fully utilized as a leader in this position. What position would you like to find yourself where you can express all these, you can put all these talents to use and not be tainted by the corruption of government and all that. This is our problem, you see. When we say, okay, somebody like you should become minister, it's not the right, it's not the right direction, because most ministers cannot even make such an impact as you would make. So can you think of a position? I'm sure that you must have studied positions in other countries of, leaderships in agriculture. Can you think of something that will give you the freedom to operate or to join with policy making and then implement? Okay, that is one. Now, secondly, with all the with all our improvement in agriculture, etc., if we are not targeting household food security as well, we continue to have hunger in our land. And so I want to know, what is being done to make sure that household food security is improving, particularly with feeding of children. You see, there was a time when we had this soyogi which was very good as baby food, the winning food. But that disappeared, and it was now replaced by Indomil, which is being imported. Maybe it's even made here, but it's made from primary products that we don't produce. And that is, I think, is wheat or something like that. But anyway, so
Can I ask you to round up with your question, Mom, so that we can
okay.
take the few hands? Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So what I want to know is what are we thinking of linking up agricultural improvement to household food insecurity improvement, to feeding and special people in hospitals, etc. I would love to hear you talk about that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Annabel, you got those two questions correct from her?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. So I'm going to so you have three. You have the one from Odell Farms, you have the one from Auntie Emisia, and then you have the one for Professor Grange. So can you take those three, and then we'll take the last set of questions here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll start with Professor Nike's question on her question on household food security. One of the things that I have lately started to champion is urban farming. Initially, when we were growing up in the 90s, even up to early 2000, people planted vegetables, tomatoes, peppers in their backyard. But today, you want to make small stew for a family of 4, you have to go to the market. You want to make porridge yam, you have to go to the market because people are no longer having home gardening. So we are trying to now bring back home gardening, to make home gardening, to create awareness that part of what needs to be done is for us to go back to home gardening. So if you live in a place where it's completely interlocked, use sack farming. Do sack farming. You can plant things. You can plant potatoes in sacks. You can plant vegetables in sacks. You can plant a lot of things. You can plant yam in sacks. That way you are able to then reduce the pressure of the demand in the open market. So you only go to the open market where you need to cook for a large crowd and all of that. And again, one of the things that would also do is to help to ensure that you are sure of what you are eating. So in terms of vegetables, for instance, that you don't need to apply a lot of heat. What people do who plant vegetable is that they impute a lot of pesticide. They don't even wait for the pesticide, the lifespan of the pesticide to expire before they harvest it and they take it to the market. They use a lot of synthetic fertilizer, and all of these have residues in the vegetable. So you keep eating vegetable without knowing that you are eating poison. But if you are producing it in your own home, you are able to control what you put in the vegetable that you are cultivating. And that would also help with somewhat with household food security. And then the linking up agricultural improvement with children's feeding is very important, especially in this era of GMO, where a lot of genetically modified food is all over the place, and people are bringing in all manner of things into the country. Either they bring in the raw material processed here, or they are importing finished products that children eat. One of the things that we can again do is to create that cluster. So it's very important that we create clusters and then get these clusters to start cultivating, for instance, what children would eat. Say sweet potatoes, for instance, Irish potatoes, cultivate soya beans, cultivate maize, and you are sure what these people are cultivating because you are also able to see what is going on in the farm from time to time. The question on mechanization and access to mechanization, unfortunately, there is low percentage of mechanization equipment in Nigeria. However, John Deere tractor is in Nigeria, and they have their assembling plant in Nigeria. So I think we could, so this is to Pastor Artua, we could reach out to them to say, look, we have a few people who are interested in buying mechanization equipment. They might not have all the money to pay all at once, but can you have some sort of structure, payment structure for them to pay maybe 5 times, 6 times, whatever it is, continue to pay until they have fully paid for the tractor and they can now take the tractor. It's unfortunate actually that you find out that every year state governments, federal government continue to buy tractors. So they say they bought 1,000 tractors, they bought 2,000 tractors, they bought 500 tractors. And the question is, where are these tractors? You ask for tractors and you cannot find them because the tractors are actually nowhere to be found. They are maybe sitting in somebody's farm and sitting idle instead of as a country or as a state creating tractor hiring scheme where that tractor hiring scheme becomes like a company and people can actually request for tractors and the tractor people can come in, evaluate your farmland, give you the price for the mechanization and mechanize for you. That's the only way we can expand our hectarage that we are cultivating right now, because if we continue to do manual labor, there is only a limit to what we can do, which is humanly possible. But even apart from the fact that you have a lot of sharp practices that go on when you get farm hands to work for you, mechanization is the only way you'll be able to do 10 hectares, 20 hectares, because imagine doing 20 hectares with laborers, how many laborers you will have to deploy to carry out each assignment within the cropping cycle. And then for the picture of the things that are going right. Yeah, there are things that are going right. So I'll give you an instance. The federal government in March just recently launched what they refer to as Nigerian Electronic Extension Platform. It is actually supposed to now help with the challenge of extension service, which before now we have one extension worker to 22,000 farmers. So they now have a platform where farmers can call in, electronic platform, farmers can use their mobile phones, call in, ask questions, and they would have people who are able to, again, answer them. Because it hasn't started with how efficient that will be, but we are also hoping that that will be efficient to be able to solve, at least to an extent, the issue of extension service in Nigeria, which is very important as far as agricultural revolution is concerned. And then the likes of Ogun State governor who is doing amazing work in the agricultural sector. They have set up a laboratory in collaboration with Bureau Veritas and Afri-Exim to test quality of products even before they are shipped out of the country. We have other governors in the north also who are championing some agricultural products or cultivation, agricultural programs. I mean, they are championing agricultural programs. So you have a pocket of interventions here and there that are going on. Is it sufficient? No. Is it okay? Yes. Could it be done better? Yes. Is it sufficient? No. Because if it is sufficient, we will have a lot of food. We will not be in the food crisis that we are now. But again, even the federal government has also mandated the military, all the arms of the military, to go into farming. So the military, the Nigerian army have their farms now. The Nigerian Navy has their farm now. The Nigerian Air Force also have their farm. Even the defense themselves also have a 1,000 hectare farm in Gurara, where they are also in Kainji, I mean, where they are also hoping to start cultivation, and they are going to now continue to expand into other locations. The essence of that is to use this to also begin to combat insecurity, because one of the problems that we have is that we have a lot of idle land. So you come to a state, half of the land in that state is arable, but it's not being put under cultivation. So you can have a group of people living inside that forest for years, creating havoc in town and running back to that place, and nobody knows because it is not being used. So the more land that we open up, the more these guys will not find anywhere to dwell in. And then for the position, I've never given that a thought, but any position that speaks to a place where we are able to form policies and champion implementation. So do some sort of agricultural project designs and implementation would be a good place to start. I don't know if there is any other question I haven't answered.
I think you addressed them. The Odell Farms was actually looking more for information from you. So we're going to take the last 4 hands up, and there are a couple of comments in the chat room that I would also be reading to you. So we are going to take Fikayo Ido. Please go ahead with your question or your comment, and then we would have Chimere.
Thank you so much for this information. I work in the AI innovative technology for financial sector, and coincidentally, I've been doing a lot of research in the agri space. And so it's very timely for me. So thank you very much. I'm in South Africa, really, and this is very good for me. Within this sector, I'm going to try and be fast. Farming now is the fusion of science and technology, and we cannot run away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot run away from that. And we know the 3 levels is subsistence, commercial, and industrial. And industrial is the fully automated and the AI and the fusion of technology and AI. And within that, it's where you have the highest optimal. Be that as it may, we know AI itself, whatever AI we're going to create, the higher the investment, the higher the risk. And there's so many things involved in pushing AI immediately into the environment. We have our data environment, even in South Africa, AI for farming, the models that are available is building a model is very specific to environment, to soil, and to the kind of data that you want. To pesticides in that environment, which is a bit biased and it can cause a model drift. And you need a lot of data from your environment to push it in. It's very good, very optimal. And that is dependencies where you can kick out room, or you can kick out neighbor and all that. I think, and maybe it's just a suggestion, moving from subsistence, we are doing it very well. Commercial is the lever we need to push. I wish you have talked about it. Opening up lands, putting aggregate farmers in those places, either through giving them subsistence. It could even be salaries, it could be whatever it is. Skills training, you can never run away from that. Even though farming, people think it's just great, there's skills training required. Either be it for AI, either be it for semi-technology, which we are talking about the mechanized farming, is being able to skills training and opening up for other youths. And I think why commercial should be the one we should leverage. If commercial is built up to make it a lot, commercial moves you to industrial, to last value chain. We can go back to commercializing and getting out the template of boards. You are going to have market boards, you are going to have direct market, because this will help us to do the nearest to market, nearest to resources. You can put all the resources in one area, nearest to security. The security is in one area, nearest to technology. We can leverage, because the cost of putting food industrial markets, it's a bit selfish to one individual and to the government. Meanwhile, the labor of which we are going to build a synergy of employment and offtake, the synergy of that and the offtake within that is spread across and building your GDP higher. If we move, even the AI are going to put it on a commercial level where people are already there and they can leverage on a large expanse of hectares. I think nearest to technology and nearest to security is very good. And also looking at, I think what is really restricting farmers, and which we have seen, is offtake, is quickness to get their money back. Looking at arable crops within a year, within 6 months, and within that time that is being up, they are off-takers ready for these products to be able to take it outside and build the forex. Within that itself, we can be able to leverage commercial farming into industrial as we go ahead. That is the quickest fix we can leverage instead of industrial. So I'm just thinking, what do you think about that? And Let's be careful. Finally,
No,
AI.
sir, please, you have exactly 10 seconds, please, because we are really up on time. 10
Let's be
seconds to round
careful.
up.
AI has its own risks. There is AI poisoning in agriculture. I will mention the country that is happening right now. That means AI, and you don't get the effect until after the harvest season, where there can be a drift in your models. So it's a very secure, there's security around it in the technology space. But you have done very wonderfully well, and you have actually exposed so many things. I'm happy about your ISO standards that is there. Beautiful. Government should get the models out, the governance, the platforms, the boards, the models, and the
Thank you
policies to be
very
able to
much.
bring this.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Chimere, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Annabel, it's good to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Great work you are doing. I've always been a fan of yours. So I have a comment and a quick question. You mentioned something about the Bank of Agriculture. So my comment is, it won't work if they continue to have the commercial banks to provide BG for those they want to give facility. So, that's my personal opinion, because I don't think it will work, because those commercial banks will become bottlenecks for those who are looking for facility from the bank. So the question I want to ask you is, we have these Indians, Chinese people coming into Nigeria and having these programs with government. To me, don't you think they are taking away, because they have so much money, they are taking away the opportunity for the indigenous, because they go down to the base, to the local governments. I'll give you an example of what somebody said to me one time. They went to buy cashew. They already have the Indians there, because they are coming in with dollars. They afford to take that man's son abroad to school while they buy the product from the farmer at a very minimal price. So you can't compete with that, because you already have, you are getting loan. Let's assume you're getting loan from a Nigerian bank at 20-something percent, 30-something%. You can't compete with that. Meanwhile, these people come with loans that are, 2%, 3% loans, and they come and do business here. What can we do to combat that? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you want to take the last two along with this? Because I'll help make notes of this.
I think we should just take the last two.
Last two, yes. Mr. Bolade Agbola, please go ahead with your question, and then we'll have Buluwaji.
Fanimo.
We've asked you to unmute.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you very
Bolade,
much.
okay.
It's a wonderful presentation. I'm an agriculture. Well, I can say I'm a banker, stockbroker, and agriculturist and author on agric. She has spoken so well, versatile, cover virtually everywhere we can think about. But there are two elephants in the room which we need to face. We have the land endowment. We have everything. The oil we are talking about, we invested to start producing oil. Our government is not ready to invest in agriculture to provide the enabling environment for businesses to arise from it. We talk of irrigation. We have two of the biggest rivers in Africa running through Nigeria. In how many places with the estuaries have we dammed them to do all year farming? We have just 50,000 tractors in Nigeria. In Britain, it's between 450 and 500 tractors. That's for a population of 68 million, and we are 230 million people. And a tractor costs like 40 million now because of the situation. What are we doing about that? So then what are we doing? We've seen the rise of Okomu. We've seen the rise of these are agri-based business, Presco, returning good returns in agriculture. So the business is good. Olam is doing business in Nigeria. The business is good. We only had a lot of rent-making opportunity, which this year's reform should have addressed significantly. Subsidy on petrol and the other exchange rates. So Nigerians really now have no choice to invest in agriculture. And a lot of people have made money in telecoms, in oil and gas. We need to create incentive for them to go into agriculture. So government must start spending for agriculture. That is the area we have not addressed. And the state has started it. I'm sorry. I know I have limited time. Niger State is spending 29.5% of its budget on agriculture. A state that we are applauding in Southwest is 60 billion to renovate government house, whereas his own budget on agriculture is about 15 billion. Where are we? Let's spend more on agriculture. Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana are doing better because they don't have oil, and they have spent all their resources in developing the agriculture. They have, even when we deregulated our commodities market, they kept the boards, and the boards are producing input. We don't have it. Market forces cannot deliver food, cannot make us to be competitive in agriculture. I won't say food, because we produce a lot of food, but we have endowments which ought to produce the cocoa, the cashew that cannot be grown in other parts of the world and make money out of it. We ought to be able to feed ourselves. So I won't say more than that because I know I have limited time. So there's a lot to be done. Thank God, thank you for a job well done. And I want to thank all the people that put the program together. It's wonderful. But we can turn our oil. We can use our oil to transform our agriculture by state government, local government, federal government spending more to provide this infrastructure that will not come from here. Even if you learn from Israeli experience, they spend so much money in building irrigations, in developing technology. That is what we need to do. And until we get leaders
thank you very much,
do
sir.
that, we are not going anywhere.
Thank you very much. Then we'll have Boluwaji. Please go ahead.
Good evening, all. Presenter, good evening. I'm Shibolu Fanimo. Among all of you speaking all this while, I should be the only one that is a typical farmer here. I have a farming in Ifo, at the back of Ifo local government. I also have at Idogun in Ondo State. I have at Italian. Now, let me talk briefly concerning all what we have been saying. I thank Annabel for analyzing all those challenges, especially when it comes to the issue of tractor. I'm from Ondo State. Our government is buying tractors, and yet we do not access tractor here. I'm speaking from Akure here now. We are having budget for tractors, and yet we don't have tractors that we can hire, either from government, even from private owners. I have took back of Indo. I agreed to the Idogun Farm Center one time, and they advised me to go to the Tractors Owners Association of Nigeria. I couldn't find anyone. They advised to go for Tractors Hiring Association of Nigeria. I couldn't find anyone. Now that challenges has also been touched by Annabel. My question now is this: even what we're producing in Nigeria here, we are still making it to be a little bit painful to ourselves. Look at the rice that they are processing at Kacha. I served in Kacha in Niger State. They have large farmers of rice mill, and they have mill center too. One in NCRI, National Civil Research Institute. They are processing it there. They are processing in Suchi, in Badegi. Yet they are bagging this rice and put made in Thailand on it and selling it to Nigerians at exorbitant price again. If you buy a bag of rice, what we see inside it is either 28 or 30 noodles. In the local one, you can find about 42, 47. Who is removing it? Is it sharp that reduce it? Now, you need to look into all those analyses before we can even come into the main challenge. Now, let me ask this. I have, just as I said, I have a center at Goshen Farm at the back of Ifo local government. Inside the Goshen Farm, we are over 5,000 farmers there. Labor is also a challenge. I have 12 pond and 8 archery bay. At the level of harvesting those fishes, the laborers left back to Cotonou. They remove water from the pond and make all those fishes decay. Before I will leave my working station, then I'm working at Nembe in Bayelsa, at Nembe Ogulumabiri. You can imagine somebody moving from Nembe to Ifo in Ogun State. Now, the blueprint of agriculture should be the way they do the technology, especially in the phone level. You could go to market, you see different phones. You can buy the one you can afford or start saving towards it. Why can't they make the farm tools also available like that? We need to look into that area. Let them produce. To buy a cutlass now is now 5,000 naira in Akure here. And if man is handling this, I don't think cutlass could be up to 500 or 1,000 naira.
Okay.
You can't even see hoe again. And there are many challenges that farmers are facing. real farmers, not paper farmers, not online farmers, farmers that are in the farm. At Italian there, I established cassava processing mill and piggery and feed mill centers. They stole all the equipment. Even the security that I appointed is the one that scattered all those equipment with outside farmer team. At Italian, I'm talking at
Thank you,
for that
sir.
was the one that even put light to that place. Now, these are the challenges we are facing. And if we are facing security, we are facing financial constraint, we are facing tools that is not available, we are facing economy that is not favorable, we are also facing dwindling market, and yet we are saying Nigerian youth are lazy or Nigerians are not producing when what we can use to produce are not available. The one we are producing, they are naming it in another name, and they are selling it in a very, very exorbitant price. And also, there is no loyalty among the laborers. In fact, there's no laborer again. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, sir. Annabel, we're going to ask you to please address those 4 comments. I think most of them were mostly comments, and then also include your closing remark, and then make an announcement and bring Mr. President up to close.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jumoke. Okay, so the remark on Bank of Agriculture, one of the things that I try not to do is to say it will not work. There is no cannot in my dictionary. One of the things that I think would happen is right now they haven't really taken off. By the time they take off, I know that the issue of having a commercial bank provide facility or provide a bank guarantee for you to be able to get facility will become a bottleneck. But I am sure that if the board or the policymakers actually sit together to look at all of these things when they are developing different loan programs or products, they will be able to ensure that no commercial bank becomes a stumbling block for anybody who wants to get money from the Bank of Agriculture, or not even, or make it easy for people to actually lend directly or work with NICERT, because I know that NICERT has been doing a fantastic job, even not without its own challenges, but at least they are better than other commercial banks. And then for the issue of irrigation, yes, I agree with you 100% that the government needs to invest in the infrastructure. However, while we are waiting for government to invest in infrastructure, I think that what we can do is to begin in our own little way to aggregate resources together and invest in agriculture while we are waiting for government to begin to invest. But again, people really need to understand the agri space and understand agriculture as a business and understand the value chain, open up the value chain and see the areas where they can play in and begin to play in it. The government did not intervene in entertainment. And today, what happened is that some people came together, put their money together and began to promote Nigerian music industry, for instance, even the Nigerian film industry. And today they have done well for themselves. That is what we need to do. So people from the oil and gas sector who are working in a sector that is already somewhat organized, and from other sectors have to come in and say, look, if government is not going to invest, we are going to invest in this sector. We are going to create an ecosystem that works, because that is exactly what is happening with the Indians. So the Indians that you're talking about today, the EUDR, which is the European non-deforestation regulation, when they were told that look, Europe has created this EUDR, and that the EUDR was going to take effect from December last year, what most of the Indian companies did was to invest in carrying out the mapping of the cocoa farmers themselves, paying app owners to go in, map, use the polygon mapping, map the farms, create a traceability system and all of that. No state government has done it. In all of the states where they have cocoa plantations, no state government has done it. And the risk is that now we have the data of those farmers in the hand of private foreign individual companies. which is very sad. But because they know that it is their business, and if the EUDR catches up with them, the cutoff date of December 31st, 2025 catches up with them, they will not be able to do business in Nigeria, at least cocoa business from Nigeria to Europe. And Europe is the highest importer of cocoa. They have the largest cocoa market in Europe and the highest importer of Nigerian cocoa. They needed to do what they need to do to ensure that they continue to be in business. And that is the way to think about it. While you are waiting for government to come, if you really want to do agribusiness, you have to begin to invest. Even in infrastructure that the government ought to have invested in, you have to invest because you have no choice, unfortunately. And then for the last speaker who talked about all of the challenges, yes, the tractors, like I mentioned, these tractors come and they disappear into thin air. They are in people's garages, they are in people's farms that are not even using it. But we just would continue to speak about it. But there are small handheld equipments that you can use. You can just go online and check. Some of them have distributors in Nigeria who sell those handheld equipment. And for the issue of rice, I don't even think anybody is interested in eating foreign rice anymore. So in fact, people are, yes, there is a lot of adulteration. People produce and bag in the very popular local rice brands, but not rice from Thailand, because people are not interested anymore in eating foreign rice. Maybe in the past, yes, but right now, people are proudly eating rice from Nigeria. Thank you. Thank you, Jumoke. You have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you. So can you add your closing remarks? I think it's been a very, very wonderful session. Probably there should be a part 2 on implementation strategies, but you've done very well. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so one of the things I would want to appeal to everyone who joined this session is to come on board and become part of this revolution. We are trying to create an agricultural revolution. We need people who are knowledgeable, because 80% of those who are in the sector today are illiterates. If we have more knowledgeable people, if we have people who are good investors, if we have young people coming into the sector, we would create a change that would even amaze the government. If we want to see change, then we have to start with us. We have to start with urban farming in our houses. We have to start with investing in agriculture in any part of the value chain, be it upstream, upstream, downstream, midstream, whichever part of the agricultural value chain you find you are interested in. This is the time to come on board and use your knowledge, use your resources to create the change that we want to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think by popular demand, there is a request for a part 2. So I see a part 2 loading. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Before I hand over to Mr. President, just wanted to also apologize for, we've had a couple of hackers this past couple of weeks. So we're going to look at how we can make those changes on our Zoom. So we will notify you of those changes. So please look on the next flyer to see if there are any changes. And for now, we would disable our videos and chat function just for those that are coming in. I know a lot of people like to turn on their videos, but we would have to disable those just until we make sure that we've cleared, we have our securities cleared up and we won't have any hackers. So thank you again for joining us this evening. I put a link in the chat room if you're interested in joining ALG, getting more information about what we do. Just please go ahead and complete that form and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much. We meet here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Same, well, maybe Zoom link may change, but we'll definitely let you know. Thank you and have a good evening. Over to you, sir.
Annabel, what part of the world are you from? Are you a Nigerian?
Yes, I am. I'm Nigerian. I'm proudly Anambra.
I could feel so. Kedu?
All the man.
What did Kandi agriculture, man? You've spoken so well, and I'm so proud
Thank you
of you.
very much.
Thank you
Pastor.
so much, Annabel. I'm going to beg you to do a little 2, 3, 4-pager of strategies that we need to do to take over agricultural space. Okay, what you suggest that we should do as a people without disturbing government. Let me use the word without disturbing government to take over our own agricultural space, like a step-by-step guide of what is doable as a people, so that we can begin to, as ALG, preach that gospel and see how we can get as many to take on that thing as possible. Jumoke has insisted that we must have a part 2. If I want to have peace of mind, I better agree with her. And that smile tells me that you agree with me also. And we will be tapping on you to help us with our roadmap here and there and this and that. So don't be surprised if we tap on you a little bit more. We really the LG. We want to make Africa prosper, starting with Nigeria and spreading it all over Africa. And agriculture is a real foundation for prosperity in any nation. So thank you very much. Keep increasing your knowledge, keep expanding your knowledge, and I look forward to interacting with you very soon. God bless you. Thank you. You are based in Abuja, no?
Yes, sir.
Are you based in Abuja?
I'm based in Abuja.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night. I want to thank everybody for being on the program today. And again, we thank Annabel for the amount of effort and energy she's put in. God bless you all. Enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of your weekend. And we look forward to making Nigeria truly great. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So we've unmuted everyone now. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Annabel.
Thank you, MD.
The program organizer, thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Moderator, thank
everyone.
you.
It's your state, it's your state governor taking your advice, Annabel.
And for those of you that want to get in touch with Annabel, just